Hello and welcome to the first live Q&A on Breakthrough Leadership, in which Lou and I asked the question, what could possibly go wrong with the two of us going live for 30 minutes today?
Let me start everything. Hey, this is the first time I've seen you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. That's right. And Happy New Year to everybody out there who is watching us live and enjoys our videos. So we were talking last week that it's a great idea to talk about our predictions for this year. But then we said, hey, why don't we just go ahead and go live? We've got this great technology with StreamYard. We're streaming live on our Facebook page. We're streaming live on YouTube. If you have comments, drop them in. We'll be able to see them. And we're looking forward to hopefully interacting with some folks today. And you'll get the benefit of hearing some of our thoughts on where we see things going in 2021, which at least we're out of 2020. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, this thing up above me is bothering me. So
yeah,
what's this? Can I go like this? Where is it?
There it is, Mr. Mr. McGoo. See, Lou's got it floating right over his head, so yeah, it's all coming on.
Walking away, yeah.
Okay. So it's all good.
Okay. Where do we want to start with these predictions? I mean, obviously, we've talked about it before. You and I aren't renowned prognosticators of what's going on. But I think between your business and my business, we've talked with a lot of different clients over the last year, which has just been, one of those volatile, ambiguous, everybody doesn't know what's going on type of year. And I think you've seen some different areas and I've seen some different areas, and we have some commonalities. But moving forward, now that we're in 2021, things aren't changing that much. In fact, based upon COVID, which is the reason why we're in this ambiguous situation, COVID is not going away. Even though there's a vaccine, it's not going away.
Not anytime soon. No, absolutely.
No. So, let's go ahead and start. The number one thing that probably from a business perspective that changed during 2020, once everyone took in shelter with COVID in March, was remote work.
Right.
So why don't we start with remote work? Is, in your opinion, from what you've heard from your clients, is it here to stay? Is it going to go away the minute that everyone gets their vaccine and we're running free of COVID? What are you hearing? What's your prognostication on that?
I think on one level, we've already seen people have started to shift some people back to the office. I've seen some clients out there where they've got, necessary workers coming back into the office. Was it you that shared this story with me or somebody else? There was 6 of them decided to come back to the office, and they tried to have a meeting, and they spread themselves out so far that they couldn't hear each other. So they went back to their desks and did it on their computers. But, we're starting to see some shifting back depending on the company. And I talk to clients that I have and other people that I talk to where, they are not fully back in the office, certainly not 100% back in the office, but they're starting to get some people back in. I think there's some people who would prefer to be in that environment, although it's very different, right? You're coming in and you're masked up, you're doing all the precautions that you would normally do. But I do see some folks out there doing it. How about you, Lou? What are you seeing out there?
Well, let's face it, the genie's out of the bottle. For those companies that danced around and they wanted to practice with remote work because that next generation of leadership, flexibility in their work schedule, that, home life balance was more important to them than my generation of the boomers. It was something that was out there that companies were flirting with, and they took the time pre-COVID to let's try it with a small percentage of people. And then on March 15th, it was like, boom, 100%, we're there. So The genie's out of the bottle. After a year as a human being, we're creatures of habit. We're used to it. It ain't going away. Now, I think you may see some hybrids from what I'm understanding with some of the clients that I'm working with, where there will be some work in the office, but there will also be a lot of the remote working going on. And so that if you're on a team, maybe the team would say that we're going to be in the office on Tuesday and Thursday of this week. And then on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, everyone will be working from home as normal. So I think what you're going to find, and you said it's that people are missing that human interaction and contact. I mean, you and I, we've got a great visual here. I see you, you see me, and that's wonderful. And there is some intimacy there. But the intimacy of being together in a room to go through a brainstorming session or to collaborate on a particular project, you can't take that let's get together element out of that. And so I think you're going to find that companies are going to be adopting more of a hybrid, not 100% remote, but not 100% in the office.
Yeah, and some people I'm talking to, or a lot of people I'm talking to, are looking at dramatically reducing their footprint of their corporate office space,
Sure.
Which will, one, I think, drive to seeing people working on broken up shifts. Maybe you come in, maybe there's one day that people are in the office, or maybe even some sort of, God help us, hoteling options for people coming into the office. But certainly you're going to want to have, when you're free of COVID and you're not worried about that, some areas for you to gather, because we've talked about, I think it was a pretty recent episode where you miss out on that water cooler interaction, right? Those small pieces that you're missing out on. The other piece I think that will be interesting to see is, I really believe, because as you said, many of us are creatures of habit. If corporations are shrinking their footprint and they're not going to want everybody in the office every day, how many people are going to want to work in their homes every day and not be around people? So I do think there's going to be some interesting things moving with people moving into shared workspaces where maybe they have it, into some sort of, industrious or someone like that, where you're moving in and you're around people during the day, even though you're not working in your corporate space, just to get more of that interaction. So I could see those places actually seeing some growth once we get on the other side of COVID, which, as you said, that could be fall before we're really at a point where people are even thinking they're comfortable with that.
Well, they're even saying even late fall. So we're talking 2022 at this point, where things will, and you and I have used the expression before, is that, the pendulum went all the way to one side now. And now, as normal, the pendulum's coming back and it's going to drop somewhere in the middle. But that middle is going to be that hybrid that I talked about. Some at work in the office, some at, working remotely.
Do you see, Lou, that people might just realize, we've seen some of these offices in New York that are closing, and people are saying, well, I'm not in New York, I'm going to go to Florida. Yeah. Even though my company's in New York, I'm working in Florida now. I know one guy I talked to, he's been throughout all this, he was using a Florida beach scene as his background. And it dawned on him that I could just be in Florida and use that same background and nobody will know. And so he spent, all of December in Florida, running the business.
Yeah.
So it's entirely possible now that you could see people moving out of I think we're going to see people getting out of some of these big city environments. And it would be really interesting to see, gosh, I'm such a small screen here. I'm doing all these hand gestures that nobody can see. So I'll just put my hands down now, Lou. I think we could see people working even into smaller towns and getting out of the city environments.
I think there's been a lot of benefits, and you and I have talked about this in the past. There's been a lot of side benefits to the remote work. People aren't commuting as much. So that time that they would spend commuting has really been eliminated, and it's become more productive time. In addition to that, they've saved money on gas, tolls, repair, of their car, because they're not putting as many miles on their car. And I think there are some of those side benefits that people are truly beginning to realize. Initially, I think they were unconscious benefits, but they are truly becoming conscious benefits. In addition to clothing, I mean, if you think about it, you just need a shirt and a pair of gym shorts, and you're good. So,
I suited up today.
You threw a jacket on. But I think there are some side benefits that, it used to be that when you hired somebody, some of the big perks would be, well, what is your 401k like, your retirement planning, those sort of things. I truly believe that, in the past, remote work and flexibility was a perk that companies offered, new employees that they were recruiting. That's not a perk anymore. That's going to be an expected standard, that when I'm coming in, I can work remotely, which goes to your point. I took the long way to get to your point. And that is, absolutely, people are going to be, companies can now hire people who are not in the same location as their main offices, and maybe not even, 10, 15 miles from their main office. They'll be able to, if we're in Indianapolis, we may be able to hire somebody from Columbus, Ohio, or Pittsburgh, that we can then just have them remote work. And I think companies will see an expansion of their new hire pool.
I agree with you. I think also on the perk side from clients that I've talked to, I've got some clients that are pretty big call center environments. And that to me is the mind-blowing thing during all this is everybody figured out very quickly how to take call centers and move them out, even the ones that they wanted that tight control of that call center.
Right.
So now what they're teeing up is it's an employee perk. As long as your performance and your stats and you're hitting your numbers, you can continue to do the call center work from home. But if you can't hit your numbers, you've got to go back into the office.
Right. Right.
So it's really a brilliant way for people to do it.
And even before call centers, I think there have been, prior to COVID, there were companies that took their customer service call centers and made them in remote locations where someone who was at home, like, a mom who's still got kids at home, they could still have a job. And what they did was they answered customer service calls that would automatically be routed during a certain period of time in their home. So I think that experiment with the call centers started before COVID. But as you said, with your example, I mean, on March 15th, boom, no one can come in the office. We got to figure out a way to do that.
Yeah. So before we move on to the next topic, I would just like to tell everybody.
Did you answer that question?
I think we came a little close to it. We got the long way around. But okay. I would just tell the people who are with us live, if you're watching, you can actually drop a comment and we'll be able to see it live. So if you have a question or additional thought, we'd love to hear it. If you haven't aligned StreamYard into your Facebook or YouTube, we won't see your name. It'll just say Facebook user or YouTube user. But if you have questions, please drop them in and we'll be happy to talk. It'd be a great opportunity for us to do some interactive work instead of just talking to ourselves. So let's move on to our next topic, Lou, which is, as we're looking out into 2021, what changes do we see and how people are going to be hiring in the new year?
Well, we touched on it a little bit about that as part of the hiring. Every company's net for getting new employees will definitely be expanded, because I'm not restricting myself to a specific location and then having to worry about relocation costs that I'm going to have to pay this employee to move closer to our office and things like that. And so I think that's going to be one of the big issues when it comes in new trends and when it comes to hiring. The other thing too is, when it comes to hiring, I think that you're going to find with more technology, use of technology is going to be one of those competencies that is going to be important moving forward. And so it's not just I'm a good manager. How well do I use the technology to be able to keep me remote and to be able to answer those questions? So I think those are two areas right there that I think are going to play an important part moving forward in hiring.
Yeah, that is a big piece. When I was running my last business, actually throughout my career, the salespeople were always remote, right? That was just,
right.
Actually, it's interesting. When I first moved to Indianapolis, my territory was New England, and I used to fly to New England every week, which was crazy. And then we shifted, with technology allowing us to do it, and just started hiring people in those remote areas. But some of the other jobs were kind of later to come to that. I think we're going to see a huge expansion in that. If I can find the best person, as you said, right? If I can find a great person for my role, I'm just going to go, hire them and bring them on. I think the other piece is, with all this, we're going to get a lot more comfortable with virtual assistants. I think you're going to see a lot of small and mid-sized business just say, look, let's just 1099 these guys. Right. I don't need a 40-hour-a-week assistant or a 40-hour-a-week COO.
No, I think
CMO, right?
Yeah, I think you'll see a lot of companies using the gig economy as part of their employee base.
Right.
And truly we only need somebody. It's like you and I only need a coach. I only need a trainer for 2 months. So why would I go out and hire somebody to be in charge of learning and development when really I'm just looking at a very short project? Same thing with coaching. I don't need Craig and Lou to hang around for 3 years. I've got 2 people I need coached, and we're going to use their services for 6 months. And so I truly think that you'll see a lot of companies, the gig economy will be part of their employee, quote unquote employee, when I say that, because it'll be part of their workforce.
Sure, but after that 6 months, they really ought to think about renewing those coaching language deals. Don't you think, Lou?
Absolutely.
I think you really just want to keep those going.
There's the sales guy in you coming.
That's right. That's right. Hey, speaking of, well, not sales, but it's a sales pitch for you. Let's take a question we just got here from Melissa. Do you guys have a podcast or just shared videos? Lou, you're a podcast guy. Hit it.
Absolutely. Our podcast, Q&A on Breakthrough Leadership, is available on all of your major podcast platforms. And every Thursday, we download a new podcast. If you just don't want to listen to us, but you want to see our beautiful faces, obviously you can go to YouTube, QA on Breakthrough Leadership, and you'll find our videos there also.
But we're seeing clearly people would rather listen to us than look at us, because I think we're getting more downloads on the podcast.
Yes, based upon the annual statistics we just got done reviewing, our podcast gets a lot more downloads than our video.
Yeah, so that tells us all we need to know.
The face only a mother can love, obviously.
Exactly. Thanks for that question, Melissa. So anything else to cover on hiring, Lou?
No, I think you're going to find the one last thing is I think you're going to find a lot of outlets like Indeed.com and everything, those platforms. I think you're going to see them bursting at the seams, because that's going to help a small company who doesn't have the reach that a major Fortune 500 company would have in different locations. I think you're going to see that small to mid-sized company using more of those platforms. And so I would not only recommend for the companies that are looking at hiring, but for those of you who may be listening that you want to start looking for another job, is start hitting those platforms, because you may find opportunities that you did not see prior to 2020.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, before we move on, another comment from a viewer, Jillian. Not a question. Oh, Jillian's a dog. Not a question. Just wanted to let you know your presentation is very helpful and dynamic. Thanks a lot, Jillian. We know you're a very loyal viewer, and we appreciate that.
Look at Ruby Roo.
Ruby Roo. All right, Lou, let's hit our next topic. You want to tee us up?
Yeah, leadership expectations and characteristics. In 2020, we saw leadership characteristics and competencies really, we saw those deficiencies that people had in their leadership ability really be highlighted. And we talked endlessly in 2020 on our podcast and video about empathetic leadership, servant leadership, better communicators, being vulnerable, and being more agile as a leader. And I think that they're just going to escalate in 2021, that they're going to be those competencies that people have started to develop, but I think in 2021, they're really going to start diving into those areas of empathetic servant leadership, being a more agile leader, to really become a better leader in the new work environment that we have.
Right. Yeah. You know, a lot of the research we were doing before this episode, looking into all the art, so many of the articles just kept hitting on, we've advanced 15 years in, 15 months or whatever on some of these things. And I think we're seeing that evolution in leadership. People are looking, we talked about this a few weeks ago, for the big stoic leader to stand up and say, everything's fine, we're all doing great, when everybody knows we're all struggling under this construct we've created because of COVID, right? Everybody's stressed out. And to the extent leaders can show that bit of empathy and that bit of vulnerability to say, look, I'm struggling with this too. Here's how we're going to do everything we can to make it work.
Right.
But that's an important piece. And then I think the other side of that coin is, where can we show empathy for those businesses that people are still going in every day, right? There's any number of industries, right, where there's leaders of people who aren't just, white collar workers who can work from home. Right. There's also the idea of leadership of people who are in all these essential industries, the warehouses, the grocery stores, and all those places. How do we show that empathy to those folks who have to be kind of in an exposed place all the time? Yeah. And so I think leading those people and thinking, how can I be the best leader I can be for them right now, is a crucial piece as well. So I don't want to get lost into the kind of white collar job without recognizing call centers probably to a lesser extent, but all of the essential workers and all these folks that have to go work every day. How do we show that empathy to them and have some consideration for that?
Yeah. And I think that goes back to, and we did several episodes in 2020 about company culture. And I think moving forward in 2021, culture will really be one of those big issues. And in fact, when it comes to culture, CEOs, business operators need to start asking themselves questions like, what's right for my business right now? And they need to step back and look at that. They need to say, what's fair for my employees, regardless of white collar, blue collar, essential worker, non-essential worker, whatever you want to term it. Okay. The other thing too is what helps retain my employees, knowing that there's going to be this huge opportunity for some of your employees, perhaps current employees, to move on to other places, bigger opportunities that aren't in the city, that weren't open to them now. They need to ask that self as part of their culture, what's fair to my employees? And the other question they need to ask is, what can I do to constantly maintain a culture? Because we're not in the same place where we all, can really enjoy a company culture. We're in different locations. We're on little islands all to ourselves, and we get together every now and then. And so what can we do to perpetuate that so that we can maintain productivity? And I think those are some questions leaders really need to be asking themselves in 2021.
Yeah, I know a lot of companies early on, leaders gave, some big bonus checks and different things to those people who had to be in grocery stores or in the workers in warehouses or whatever. And then that just kind of petered off over time. And, I think the challenge is to ask yourself, what's different than I quit doing that, except that this all became normalized. Yeah. So where can I continue to show that appreciation and support for my team, no matter what their situation is? I've talked about some companies who have just done a great job of getting the leadership has just kind of tuned into the need to help people with support and providing, gift baskets, for special occasions and doing the happy hours, which also kind of died off because I think we're all Zoom exhausted. Doing all those things.
Don't forget the employee of the month parking spot in the parking lot got done away with.
Maybe we just give you like something. We always put you in the top left of the Zoom screen if you're the employee of the month.
Yeah. No, maybe you get down in the bottom left where you're not in everybody's attention. You're not the focus of attention.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, we know you all wanted to hear our predictions, and they're all, as Lou and I said, kind of to each other back and forth. They're absolutely worth what you're paying for them, all of them. But the real reason we know everybody tuned in today is because we had great fun with my word for the year last year, intentional, to the point where one of our viewers actually intentional back at me before I could even roll it into an episode. So we wanted to unveil our words of the year for this year. So Lou has quite the presentation prepared for his. I'm just kind of winging it.
You started this, so you go intentional with 2020. What is Craig's word of the year for 2021?
All right, we have the drum roll. I should have gotten a sound effect or something for a drum roll. Our word for the year, my word for the year this year is really going to be focused on what I need. What I was thinking was, what do I need to do to have success in this year? I'm in the middle of doing a training right now on kind of putting your plan together for 2021. And if you'd like to catch that, clearpathcoaches.com will get you there. Clearpathcoaches.com/register is all the link you need to join the workshop in progress and catch all the prior videos. I'll just make that pitch there, Lou. But part of my plan for the year is really focusing in and tracking on my work, making sure I'm doing those things that are going to show results for my business. So what's important to me, and my word for the year for 2021, is consistency. Consistent application of the things that I know are going to serve my clients better, help me grow my business faster. Those are the things that I really want to focus on. So you can look forward for the next however many episodes this year. I think we just finished this is 63, I think. The next 60 episodes or whatever we do in 2021, which we will do consistently, Lou.
Yeah.
Will be the word that I work in for the year. So my real focus for 2021 is consistency and being consistent.
Well, there goes my word of the year, because No. I actually, since you challenged me early on and you said, look, I had a word of the year, you need to have a word of this year. And I went through and I looked at words such as act, reinvent, agile, consistent. I did look at consistent, focus, balance, growth, stability. I looked at all of those words, looked at the definitions, looked at the situation that we're currently living in. And so the results by Price Waterhouse are here. So let me open it up and tell you what my word of the year was going to be this year. And it is going to be stability.
Stability. All right.
Because I think we've just got through a year of such unstable circumstances that we now we know what we have in store for us. We've experienced most of us. There's more to come. But I think the majority of getting and adapting to the COVID situation, we've been there. Okay, there's no book that we can read on how to deal with COVID in the workplace. I'm sure someone's writing one right now, but there's no book that we could have gone to. So now what we've got to do is, in everything we do, as an employee, as a manager, as a leader, as a CEO, we've got to restore stability. Because when we restore stability to our organizations, our companies, it's going to start to spread to restore stability to individual lives. And everybody needs more stability in their lives. We're still in an uproar. There's still a lot of confusion and ambiguity. So we need that stability. So my word of the year is going to be stability.
All right. Well,
now, do I get a variance on that? Like, can I use stable and still get credit for it?
You can use, I'm going to allow it, Lou, because I know I'm going to be switching consistent and consistency throughout the year. So
okay, good.
We'll take the word and any variations as we go through it. Good. So yes, so you can look for a consistently stable Q&A on breakthrough leadership as we drive through 2021. So Lou, any closing thoughts you have? What are your takeaways, key takeaways from today, Lou?
My key takeaway is we're still unstable and we need to become more stable. And I truly believe that everybody, whether you're a leader in an organization or whether you're just a team player, we need to restore some stability into our organizations. We've had a year to play with it. The playing's done. Let's start getting back to the basics. Look at everything that we've done in 2021 or in 2020 that worked and use those as the principles to move forward in 2021.
Yeah. I would say, my key takeaway is there's a lot of different things that are going to be flying around this year. We're still feeling our way through this, but as we start to come up from out of this and, we see opportunities increase as, the vaccine gets out there, things are going to happen really fast. And so thinking about these things now is going to help business owners and CEOs make better decisions. Think about what you've got a pretty good baseline now that we've gotten through 2020 of roughly how things are working in COVID land. So think about as things change. COVID land.
Like chutes and ladders and candy. We're in COVID.
Yeah, except every piece of candy is open and rained on and sticky. But yes, it's just like Candyland. So think through these things now to the extent, a key part, and it's tough, I think, when you're a small business owner, especially to be thinking ahead because you're so focused in the day-to-day. But carve out your time to think about these things because when these opportunities happen and these changes come, they're going to come fast. So that's my key takeaway today.
Well, good.
Awesome.
Good. Well, Craig, I have to say, our first live Q&A on breakthrough leadership was pretty successful. And I think it also provides an example to everybody that when we actually do post, we don't do a lot of editing.
Yeah, that's right.
We're one take wonders.
That's right. Although everyone's also seen the opening cutscenes of all the mistakes that we do make. But I swear, guys, it's usually in the opening and the closing credits. That's where we mess it up every time. So with that, and it's especially bad when I do the opening and Lou does the close. So with that, Lou.
Yeah. Why don't I go ahead?
Close us out.
Well, Craig, I appreciate the opportunity that we went ahead and did this. I think it's going to be valuable to us in the future. And every now and then we can continue to do a live Q&A on breakthrough leadership. So if you've enjoyed our video, please, in the comments section, give us a comment. Go out on our podcast and give us a rating, give us a comment so that it raises, our exposure when it comes to getting our message out, or just getting some free training and advice out to individuals. So if you liked it, like it, share it, subscribe to Q&A on Breakthrough Leadership. Again, we're available on all of your major podcast platforms. And so as I always tell everybody, and I'll continue in 2021, keep your hands washed, keep your distance. I'm Lou Quinto.
And I'm Craig Anderson. Thanks, everybody.